afternoon, everyone. This is Jessica Terlikowski with the Aide Foundation of Chicago, and I want to welcome you all to our special emergency webinar for the HIV community, where we're going to be providing a update on what we can do to stop the ACA repeal. So thank you all for coming today. Just a couple of housekeeping issues. We have a lot of people who are on the call today, and so we have all people in listen-only mode. So we are not going to be able to have folks submit their questions over the phone. However, you can submit your questions at any time during the course of the call and during the webinar using the question feature in the webinar. And so here's a slide that shows you exactly how to do that. And you can also email your questions directly to my email address that's up on the screen. And we're looking forward to a really good conversation today and learning what we can do to take action.
Thank you so much, Jessica.
To Mr. Bill McCall. Yeah, take it, Bill.
Thank you, Jessica. I really appreciate that. So I'm William McCall. I'm the Director of Health Policy, Bill McCall, as I think most of you know me as, at AIDS United. And we are really pleased to be able to have a number of experts about what is happening with the healthcare system. As many of you know, we have been really pushing forward on trying to ensure that that a repeal of the Affordable Care Act does not happen in the Senate. We know that if a repeal were to take place, that there would be major consequences for the HIV/AIDS community, including potentially loss of coverage for some people, having to move back to a regular situation with the Right Weight program. We know that in the past we've had waiting lists for the AIDS Drug Assistance Program and for medical visits, and we are not willing to go back to that space. So we're working hard to make sure that that we keep the Affordable Care Act. And to that end, we have a number of people who are joining us on the call. Just very quickly, I'm going to list the folks who will be speaking, and then after that, we'll move directly into our first speakers. So I just want to say that our first speakers will be Cietta Kiandoli, the Director of Engagement in the Office of Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, and Matt Fuentes, who's the Legislative Aide for Chuck Schumer as well. We then have Shannon Attanasio, the Senior Director of Government Affairs for Family USA, who I think is planning to join us around 2:20. Jaron Benjamin, the Vice President for Community Mobilization and Housing Works. Jessica Terlikowski, of course, you've already heard from at AIDS Foundation of Chicago. And finally, Khanna, the Executive Director of Positive Women's Network USA. So we're very excited to be able to present this group. And I think we'll go ahead and, in the interest of time, keep moving forward. So Cietta and Matt, we would like to turn the proceedings over to you.
Thank you so much. And thanks for inviting me on this call today. I think this is obviously very timely. So glad that you guys are calling an emergency call. We had one last night with a number of organizations that we work with, some of whom are on the phone, to start to get people updated and activated over the next couple of days. So we're really, really grateful for all the work that advocates have been doing across the country. You know, our office strongly believes, and most of our Senate Dems know, that the reason why this bill has become so unpopular and so difficult for our Republican colleagues to support is because of the pressure that you guys have been putting on them, all of the work that you've been doing in offices across the country, all of the protests have actually kept the energy up and actually also keeping our energy up. So I'm just going to run through a couple of things that we're thinking about that we'll be doing over the next 24 hours or so. And then Matt will go into a little bit more of the procedural pieces for you as well. Just give you a recap of the calendar and things that we think will be helpful over the next couple of days. So Dems, as you know, have been holding strong. You saw that yesterday, all 48 of us, all 48 of our members actually held together and voted against the motion to proceed. And then late last night, all voted against the Republican bill. Today, they've already lost votes on the Senator Paul's amendment to repeal the Affordable Health Care Act without replacement. All of our members, again, voted against that as well. And so while Republican leadership is not left with a lot of options, they seem to continue to push forward with what they're calling the skinny repeal bill that would actually still leave 15 million Americans without health insurance. And despite that, we are still saying that a skinny repeal is still repeal. It will actually still harm a number of folks. It will kick a number of people off the rolls, and Matt will, if you have questions, can go into much more detail around the Medicaid piece on that. But as you know, we do not control the calendar. We anticipate that there will be a vote around 3:30 today on a number of motions to commit, and so we're ready for that. We're actually prepping our strategy for that. And so what we're asking from groups now is to keep up the pressure. Please keep calling our offices. We still are, not just our office, I'm sorry, the Republican offices. A number of members are still very vulnerable and are wavering, and we want to make sure we're shoring them up to defeat this legislation. If you have activists that are able to still do work in states, please continue to do that. We want to hear from you. We know that that's going to keep energy up on our folks, and we know that folks need to hear from you every day. And then if there are questions or things that you have around the policy pieces and things that are moving forward, please let us know. But ultimately, you guys have been doing your job, and we're trying to do our job, and we're actually working around the clock now. My office right now is filled with LAs from all over, from all of the Democratic offices, working on our amendment strategies, working on what to do with the next votes that are going to happen, and actually trying to reach out to our Republican colleagues where possible to figure out places where we can work together and move them on over to our side. But ultimately, we want this repeal off the table, and then let's think about how we work on ACA together. And I'll stop there and then turn it over to Matt just to run down the calendar a little bit.
Thanks, Cietta. And like Cietta said, we don't have control over the calendar, so we know some things that'll happen in the next couple of hours, and then we have some hunches and speculations about what can happen next, but ultimately we're not in the driver's seat in this process. So as Cietta touched on, around 3:30 today, there's going to be two votes. The first is on what is as comprehensive a repeal of the Affordable Care Act as they can get through under reconciliation rules. What this largely means is that it eliminates the entirety of the Medicaid expansion and eliminates any subsidies that were used to help afford premiums in the individual insurance market, but it leaves in place many of the consumer protections that were included in the Affordable Care Act, because those under the Byrd rule are likely not permissible in a budget reconciliation vote. That vote will fail. It is expected to fail. We'll have to see by what margins. The reason it's likely coming up is that so Leader McConnell can give some of the more hard right conservatives in his caucus the opportunity to vote on a very hard right package. We'll have to see what members vote for it and what don't. Yesterday, we were a little surprised by some of the members that supported the what we're calling the BCRA 3.0 when they had come out in the past and made some pretty strong statements in opposition to it. So we'll have to see how that goes. After that, what the Democrats will do is we're going to be offering a motion to commit and strike all of the Medicaid cuts in the bill. So for those of you who are not familiar, the way a motion to commit works in the budget process is that it is written largely in plain English rather than legislative text, so it's a lot easier to digest. And what it would do, it would say, we offer a motion to commit the bill back to the Finance Committee with instructions that any of the Medicaid cuts in the bill are taken out of it. Now, this has a couple of advantages for us, and the reason we're doing it this way. The first is that Republicans, we know they're in favor of Medicaid cuts, obviously from the bills they've put out, and we just need to find a way to really crystallize and put that forward. This is a measure that we know they'll oppose, one, because of policy reasons, and two, because if it passes, it takes the bill off the floor and really halts and stops the entire process. So they really can't vote against or vote for this motion to commit. The second is because it is written in plain English and legislative text, it makes it a little bit easier for us to reach out to the general public and people who aren't watching this step by step as many of you all are. and help them connect and understand what's at stake here. So one of the themes that we're trying to push today is the Medicaid cuts in the bill. That's really the crux of what Republicans are doing. And we have some member engagement and public relations efforts that are focused around those Medicaid cuts. After that, we're going to have to see what happens. There's 20 hours of debate in this process that's evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans. Senator Cornyn speaking on the floor as we talk on the phone right now, so we're continuing to burn the hours in those debates. But when that ends, we're not sure. 20 hours is the max, it's not the minimum. So at any point, if Republicans feel they've got their process pretty much scripted to finish, they can yield back the balance of their time and getting moving on to the vote-a-rama. The way the vote-a-rama will work for you, those of you that are not familiar, is there is an unlimited amendment process. So this is the opportunity for both Democrats and Republicans to offer a number of amendments to the bill and motions to commit and what have you, to help really make the case for our arguments and our positions that we've been putting forward. At the end of that, it is presumed that Leader McConnell will introduce what we're calling a King of the Hill bill, or a King of the Hill substitute amendment that is meant to be the amendment they will vote on for final passage. What it seems like is coming out today is what they're calling the skinny plan. So what their idea here is that they can't get their caucus to agree on any type of legislation. So what Leader McConnell has done is gather everyone together and say, okay, let's find the lowest common denominator and find one thing that we can agree on. Let's pass that, get it to conference committee with the House, and there within the conference committee, we can have much more time to legislate and to work out and talk with CBO and put together a carefully crafted bill. So what we're hearing this skinny plan will likely just be a repeal of the individual mandate and a repeal of the employer mandate, and maybe probably repeal of the medical device tax too. And they're thinking they can get 50 votes with that. This is an area that we're trying to focus our message on. We're really pivoting to now, and we could certainly use your help on that. There are two big problems with that. First off, the bill unto itself, if the House was just to adopt it, would be disastrous. As Cietta said, it would result in 15 million more people uninsured because of the increase in adverse selection, and premiums would go up 20% in the individual market. The other half of that is, as we have seen in the House is probably and almost certainly more conservative than the Senate. The Freedom Caucus wields significant influence over there. And there is no way that a bill that comes out of conference committee is not as conservative or more conservative than anything that the Senate has put together thus far. So for the moderate members and those who have said they're not okay with Medicaid cuts or they're worried about the pre-existing conditions provisions in it, we're trying to talk to them that there is no way that the House is going to be able to address their concerns. They have no end game here. And the best thing they can do if they're really concerned about protecting people is to vote against this at final passage, stop the bill in its track, and sit down with Democrats. Anything else is just playing with fire and putting more people at risk and causing more uncertainty in the markets, which is going to lead to more insurers dropping out and premiums going up. So that's the message that we're trying to amplify out. And to the extent that you all are talking to Republican offices, we would encourage you to do the same. So that's the rundown of where things are. The caucuses just came out of lunch, so we should probably get some more clarity in the next little bit. But we are happy to keep anyone updated, and I can take any questions if that would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Matt. I think that because of our setup, we'll have Jessica ask questions that she's been receiving from the audience.
Great,
Jessica?
thanks, Bill. Yeah, so we've got a question that's come in about the skinny repeal. The person asked, with regards to the 15 million people who are said that will be left without health care under the skinny repeal, are these 15 million people who currently have health care under the ACA and will have it taken away? They really want to know who are these 15 million people?
Yeah, so the way the Congressional Budget Office works is they use 10-year windows, and then they say 15 million less people than are currently projected to be insured. So most, if not many of those people probably, yes, do have insurance currently. But I think it's, a little bit of a stretch to say that all 15 million of those people currently have insurance and get it. will get it canceled. The way CBO broke it up last time was that of that 15 million, 7 million would be people that canceled their individual insurance policies, either because they're younger, healthy people that don't want it, or the people that think that because premiums go up, the value just isn't there anymore. A couple million people would lose employer-based coverage, and then another 4 or 5 people would abandon Medicaid because of the lack of the individual mandate. We're hearing that CBO may put out an additional score on this. This report is from about 8 or 9 months ago when they just looked at the repeal and the individual mandates, so I'll have to get an exact score. But in terms of the kind of how explaining this technically, I think the best way to word it is 15 million less people will be insured.
Thanks, Matt.
Great.
Were there further questions, Jessica?
Yeah, there's another question actually about the skinny bill and some of the language that's being used to describe it. So we're wondering, what kind of language should we be using to talk about the skinny bill in a different way to help it, to convey how problematic it is, and not to make it sound too positive?
Yeah, I think kind of going back to those 2 points I hit on, that the bill unto itself is a disaster, and you're playing with fire that the chance the House could just say, you know what, we don't think we can get anything done, we're just going to eat this bill, and then we're going to pass it as is. And that would be you saying, you're risking that the House could just adopt this bill, and then something that you thought was never going to pass actually does pass. So that's 15 million less people covered and premiums going up and really destabilizing the market. And then the pivot on that for members who say, or people who say, well, that's never going to happen, they're going to conference committee, is you say that conference committee won't solve any problems. The House has already passed a very conservative bill that guts Medicaid, eliminates protections for people with pre-existing conditions, and it has a whole litany of other problems with it. So there is no end game here that doesn't result in millions of people losing insurance and millions more seeing their costs go up.
So Matt, I'd like to ask a quick question, and just in terms of timing, it sounds like things could happen at any point that they decide that they actually have enough votes to pass something with this slimmed down. I kind of refuse to call it skinny plan, just because it's such nice language. Being their sort of final option. Do you have a sense if things follow the process that you feel like they're going to, when a final vote would take place, and should people just be weighing in now and consistently until that happens?
Yeah. Well, the kind of the 3 points on that. First, yes, people should keep weighing in, largely nonstop until we actually see a vote happen. Number 2, on calling it the skinny plan, yes, we were just talking about that internally. We had ideas either call it the secret plan, or one of the senators came up with the idea skinny scheme, which I think sounds a little bit more nefarious than plan.
I love that.
We've also
In terms
calling
of
it a scam bill. Yeah, scam bill, number of names. I'm sorry, go ahead, Matt.
In terms of the timing, vote-a-rama typically happens into the night, with the final vote coming around 2 to 4 in the morning. It is possible that could happen tonight, depending on how things go over the next couple hours. I think it is maybe more likely that that happens tomorrow night. But for people who want to kind of be here and be alert and be engaged, I would say you kind of just got to remain on high alert. It will happen sometime in the next 36 hours, and it's just a matter of figuring out exactly when.
Thank you. I've actually had another question come in via text here, so people are using their technology to get in the questions. Many states have triggers in their ACA enabling legislation. Removal of the mandate could trigger a domino effect of policy change in states. Are Republicans aware of this? And I haven't heard much talk about this possibility. And I'll just mention that. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, if I had insight into the Republican ideas here, I think I would be a far more valuable staffer than I am today. But unfortunately, I don't. You know, my guess is probably not. I don't think they're really focusing at this point on the practical policies and what it would mean to actually implement their ideas. This is a purely political exercise, and they are focused on getting something to conference committee and then just dealing with it then. So no, at this point, I imagine most of the discussions don't center around the details of policy. They center around politically what it will take to get 50 votes.
Thank you.
And Bill, we've got another question through the, can I just ask this one additional one that came through?
One last question.
Yeah, great. So wondering that if you could clarify what will happen if the motion to commit is successful. Is it specific, it will specifically impact Medicaid only, or is it going to have other impacts? And then also the question, the other part of the question is about the rest of the process and the vote-a-rama and ultimately, you know, that ultimate votes will likely proceed.
Yeah, so in the motion to commit, first off, the chance of it being successful is less than 1%. But if it were, a motion to commit is not an amendment in the sense that it changes the bill. What it does is it takes the bill off the floor, sends it back to the committee of jurisdiction, which in this case is the Finance Committee, and says you have instructions to make these changes to the bill and then send it back to the Senate floor. And for a minimum of 3 days. So to the extent that it passes, the bill goes off the floor and goes to the Finance Committee. They have to do a markup and hearings and what have you on it. You know, we would have to, if that actually happened, there's never really been a precedent for what the standard is for made the appropriate changes to the bill. So that would have to be something that's litigated out with the parliamentarian. But in the unlikely event that we come to that issue, we'll cross that bridge when we do. And then I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jessica?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I actually just X'd out of it, so now I can't pull it back up. I apologize.
I think it was maybe around what happened at the end of this process.
Yeah, and yes, and then also sort of the role of vote-a-rama within it. But I think you answered that part earlier. Yeah.
So there's a few different options that can happen. The role of vote-a-rama is unlimited amendments, and you know, we'll put up a good fight on this and make them take a number of votes that highlight their position, so they can't hide behind carefully crafted talking points that's going to be out in the light of day, or I guess the dark of night in this case at 3 in the morning. But in terms of what happens next, there's a few different options. If the final bill passes, it then goes, assuming a skinny budget passes, it would then go to conference committee. What that means practically is that Republican staff works in it probably over August, and then sometime in September, if not later on, October or November, the conference committee would convene once they think they have an agreement and move forward with the bill. If the Congress finds a way, which seems unlikely at this point, the Senate finds a way to pass a more substantive actual piece of legislation, the assumption there is that the House would just eat it and President Trump would sign it into law this week. Again, that doesn't seem likely. It doesn't seem like they have any sort of consensus on a full-scale replacement bill at this point. If it fails, there's two things that could happen. If it fails, it could be dead, and that's the end of it, and we'd have to carefully watch what Leader McConnell has to say after that in terms of, you know, whether he words things as more, we thought we were close and we're going back to the drawing board and we'll visit this in September, or more of a bit, you know, we'll continue to work on this, but at this point we're turning our attention to tax reform and other pressing issues. The other thing he can do is, if he votes no on final passage, I believe he has the right to reconsider. Though something that we are trying to figure out with the parliamentarian, because this has never happened, is if a budget reconciliation bill fails, does the ability to go through reconciliation then expire and you can no longer do that? Because the end of the year is some other time. So if the bill fails, we're going to have to work through some unprecedented scenarios with the parliamentarian, but we'll certainly send out clarity to groups once we know that.
Matt, thank you so much for this. I'll just ask one last question since some folks are continuing to text me here. The question was, why are we not hearing that the individual mandate is what is keeping prices stable? And then after this question, we'll move on.
You know, I don't know. I think that, you know, hopefully now that this is gaining some momentum online in the news and on Twitter, that some journalists and media outlets will start to cover that. Certainly, it's a little bit of a politically tricky thing, is that there are many provisions of the Affordable Care Act that are popular. The individual mandate is not popular. And talking about the stick and no carrot is I think, a difficult needle to thread for some of our members. But this is just really starting to pick up steam, so we're hoping that people will start to amplify the message of how disastrous it would be, and that this whole system doesn't work without an individual mandate. And to the extent that you all are able to amplify that as well, that would be greatly appreciated.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you, Cietta and Matt, to join us, and we know you're super busy. So we'll move forward, but we'll be obviously in touch, and we'll continue to get information out to this group and others to work on halting this repeal. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for all the work you all are doing.
So next, Shannon Attanasio, the Senior Director of Government Affairs for Families USA, and Shannon, I think I butchered your last name, my apologies, has joined us, and we'll definitely be talking about the activities that are taking place on a national scale.
Great, thanks so much,
Shannon.
and yeah, thanks so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, perfect. And you did not butcher my last name. It's been butchered about 20 times this week, and you were not one of the people to do it. So you got it right.
Yay.
Way to go. I think that the folks from Leader Schumer's office were just right on. They've been doing an amazing job gathering all of the members on the Capitol steps and telling stories and doing Facebook lives this week, and it's just really been wonderful work, the way they're organizing inside and outside of the Capitol. I think, you know, just as the leaders team said, the next 48 hours are really, really critical. I think we just need to keep up the noise. We've been saying repeal is repeal is repeal, whatever way you split this, right? Whatever vote this is bad for people. It's very, very bad for the Medicaid program. People are going to lose coverage. Their costs are going to skyrocket. And we know that's not what we stand for and we don't want to see. I think the skinny repeal package, and we're certainly trying to find a better name for it, the bait and switch, or I like the other name that someone, I think Matt had said on the call, but I forget it now, but skinny scheme, that's what it was. This is just a way for them to get into conference, right? I think we need to make sure that folks know that. It's not just about the individual mandate and the employer mandate or the medical device tax. This is so much bigger because they can go behind closed doors, really behind closed doors, and hash out a bill that all of us are going to be very, very unhappy with. So we are ramping up calls as part of Protect Our Care, Families USA's network. We're asking everyone to call their senators, focusing, of course, on those Republican senators in target states like Alaska. Senator Murkowski did a wonderful thing on motion to proceed. She voted no, but we need to, for her to stand strong. I think advocates in the state are actually using the hashtag #StayStrongLisa, and we encourage folks to continue to reach out to her. Senator Capito in West Virginia needs additional pressure. Senator Portman in Ohio. Senator Collins also did the right thing and has been doing the right thing for several weeks now on this, but folks should continue to reach out to her and acknowledge all the good work that she's done to push back on this horrible legislation, and that she needs to keep it up. Senator Heller in Nevada will also push hard on him. But really, I mean, you can call any of these Republicans and make sure your network knows. I mean, people should be hitting the phones constantly. A number to call, and maybe you have one for your network, but there's a number that will direct you automatically to your senator. It's 866-426-2631. It's actually a number that SEIU makes available during this time, and it's really, really helpful. So get those calls in, get those emails. On Families USA's website, we have compiled a list of state-by-state in-person events. We update this list constantly. You can find them. Actually, they're mapped out on a map as to where the events are. And there are rallies and protests and forums and visits that are planned. And I encourage you to do that. If folks are close to DC, there are events happening in DC today. Planned Parenthood is having a huge Protect Our Care rally at 5 p.m. on the Capitol. This Saturday, a bunch of organizations that are involved in the Protect Our Care Big Tent initiative and otherwise are doing a big day of action in July 29th day of action called Our Lives on the Line. OurLivesOnTheLine.org is the website you can go to get more information on that. There will be a DC launch of this on Saturday at 6:30 at Freedom Plaza, but there are events happening around the country. So I encourage folks to plug into that as well. It's actually very well timed being on Saturday, especially if they do have their vote on Friday, right? This is a good time to do some accountability with these senators. On our website as well, at Families USA's website, Protect Our Care Initiative, I encourage you to go there. There's a lot of shareable resources. There are tips for engaging senators who oppose repeal, good things that you can do with them to amplify those messages. There's Facebook and Twitter frames that you can use and share out. Again, great social media graphics. And I just encourage, this is the time to get loud. You cannot make enough calls and send enough emails during a week like this. So please pull out all the stops and do everything you can to kill this bill. And I think I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Shannon. We really appreciate it. And everything that Families USA has been doing, I feel like all of the things that we continue to hear about through Big Tent, it's amazing. The HIV community, I think, is a real piece of the overall response on healthcare, and we're trying to be as loud as we possibly can. Jessica, were there any particular questions that were coming up for Shannon while we have her on the call?
Yeah, so a couple things. One is about specifically who amongst the senators should be targeted now. Just wondering who, the updated list of those individuals.
Yeah, so I think the list hasn't changed as much. If anything, I think it's gotten a little bit lengthier. So I had mentioned both the senators that voted no on the motion to proceed, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine. We want to make sure that they stay strong, right, that they're hearing positive things. But at the same time, it's very important that they hold the line in any final vote and vote no. In addition, Senator Portman from Ohio and Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia, they've expressed concerns, I think, throughout this process about the way the process has run. They have concerns specifically about the Medicaid changes, which I know are really important to all of our communities. Same thing with Senator Heller of Nevada. I think those are key folks to reach out to, but again, I know it's probably the most helpful at this time for senators to be hearing directly from their constituents, right? I know folks want to reach out to their own senators. So if you have a Republican senator that's not on that list, I think it's a good time to reach out to them and let them know how you feel about this bill.
Thank you. We'll recirculate to folks also the names that we've been using, and it definitely includes that group. Senator Heller, obviously, and we'll just we'll continue to get that out there. Did you have further questions that were coming up?
Yeah,
Jessica?
I have one more question, and I also just want to encourage folks, if they have questions, they can submit them through the question feature. So this one is in regards to concerns about insurance plans that have dropped out already within specific states, and this person is wondering how it could get any worse, and what repeal would mean within those markets where those plans are no longer present.
Yeah, so repeal is certainly not going to stabilize the marketplace, right? Making coverage unaffordable for people and eliminating the individual mandate. It does not stabilize the market. But what we've been saying all along is, the Republicans and President Trump are not letting Obamacare fail. They're actively trying to make it fail, right? By not stabilizing the marketplace and sending a sign to insurers that they're going to drop this campaign, right? And move on and work with the Democrats, Republicans and Democrats working together to address real things that we have to do to stabilize the marketplaces, right? And one of those things, of course, is giving the assurance that cost sharing reductions are going to be paid to insurance companies, and those cost sharing reductions help folks in the marketplaces afford their out-of-pocket health care expenses. Those are the kind of things that should be doing. We should be dropping repeal, and we should be working together on things that can be bipartisan, that can stabilize the marketplace. First of all, everything in this bill is not going to lead to stability, right? Because fewer people are going to have coverage. And in some cases, with some of these bills, right, we've seen the possibility of splitting the risk pool and getting the sickest people in one risk pool and healthy risk people in one other pool. And we know that doesn't work, right? We've tried high risk pools in the past. So folks need to work on coming together and dropping this, and work on some things that we can agree on. Increasing enrollment assistance. In the House Appropriations bill, they've zeroed out funding for navigators and assisters, people that are on the ground helping folks enroll in insurance. So they're doing things like this. They're actively undermining the law while also marching towards repeal, and that doesn't have to happen. There is another direction.
Shannon, are there
Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon, I was just going to ask if there were any particular things beyond calling that you think the HIV community can specifically do. AIDS United has been sending emails in opposition every day to every senator, and certainly we'll work to thank senators. I'm sure that many of the other groups on this call are doing things like that. I guess if there's any final really specific things you'd like for us.
Senators' emails, I would say, plug into that our Lives on the Line event on Saturday, and we were fighting again that stories of folks that are really going to be impacted are increasingly powerful, right? And those should be shared on social media or otherwise in any sort of events you're doing. Just keep doing what you've been doing. I mean, you've been such a wonderful partner in this, and a key player in why it's taken them up to this point. To have this vote, I think it's a real testament to all the work that's been done by all the partners in Big Tent. We thought in January, right, that we would see repeal of the Affordable Care Act. Republicans have been promising this for 7 years, and here we are, still fighting to see another day. So I think that's extremely powerful, and folks should just keep doing what they're doing. It's working.
Thank you. And I see that we've put the phone number up that is, actually, I believe this is the HIV hotline. We had one that's kind of specific for that, also inspired by the SEIU line. And so that's been placed up online for people. It's 866-246-9371. And if you call as soon as this teleconference ends, that would be perfect, and keep calling. Shannon, thank you so much. I know you have a ton of things to do, and we will certainly be in touch with you.
Yeah, thank you for all your work, and thank you for being such a great partner in this fight.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Next, we move to Jaron Benjamin, who's the Vice President for Community Mobilization at Housing Works, and then kind of simultaneously holds the title of co-chair of community mobilization for like about 20 or 30 organizations. So we're really you're getting stretched there, Jaron. Things have been amazing, though, and I just hope that you'll talk a little bit about what's been happening and what you're expecting going forward.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bill, and to everybody that spoke earlier and to everybody that joined the call. Really happy and honored to join you on the call and to talk a little bit about what's been going on. So just a little bit of background about Housing Works. We're a community-based aid service organization, and a lot of our work, especially when it comes to the advocacy and organizing front, is directed by people living with HIV and AIDS. And our big initiative before Trump got elected was pushing at different jurisdictional levels, governments, especially health departments, to focus on ways to end AIDS as an epidemic. And then, of course, Donald Trump won the presidency, and we knew that with Republicans in power, the very fabric of the healthcare system that allowed us to even be in a position to talk about ending AIDS as an epidemic was being threatened. So that kind of led us to really become proactive And around February, we launched a project to train anybody. We put out a call on Facebook that said, if you can get 10 or 15 people together, it doesn't matter what city you're in, we'll, between the three of us that were working on this project, we will come to you and we will train you. And more than 25 states and 1,200 people later, and I don't know how many trainings, probably 70 or 80, we had a very strong network of activists that were going to elected officials, offices, and in district, and to their town hall meetings, asking them tough, bulletproof questions that demanded answers. And there was a lot of footage of our folks in action. So really happy at the way that turned out. When the most recent threat kind of reared its ugly head, we decided that we were going to try to mobilize these folks, and a number of these folks are living with HIV and AIDS. Some folks are severely disabled. Some folks, are wheelchair bound and have a number of chronic conditions, and really rely on the Affordable Care Act in so many ways, and on Medicaid expansion in so many ways as well, for people who aren't severely disabled. But we decided we were going to take it to the next level. We felt like we needed to do stuff in DC. So on June 28th, we decided that we were going to do something crazy and try to get see if we could have like a big raucous protest at certain senators and Congress members' offices, and possibly risk arrest, and we would see how it happened. We're going to get people from all over the United States to do this from places that we train. We train people all the way from Maine to Texas to California, and even have some contacts in Alaska now, although only a couple. So we did this in about a week. We pulled it together. We had about 70 people descend on the Capitol, and there were about 40 arrests. I remember Rachel Maddow, when she was talking about it on MSNBC, said that at some point in the Hart Building, you could hear a protest going on all the floors, which was pretty amazing. So the next week, or 2 weeks later, on the 10th, we decided we were going to do it again and do it twice the size. So we wound up having about 150 people attending the demonstrations and 80 arrests. And there's a very highly circulated photo of me getting dragged away from Ted Cruz's office with my dreadlocks flying and me screaming, "Don't worry, I'm okay." We were prepared for those events, but I do think that the message not just made its rounds in the media world and social media, but I think that it hit its intended target. The last big event we did was on the 19th, and we had about 500 people in a church, and then descended on to Capitol Hill and had 170 people arrested during protests. And the way the protest would happen, by the way, this did hit all 52 Republican senators, but the way the protest would happen is we would march into the office, demand to speak to the senator. We would have constituents up front, and they would start telling their heartbreaking healthcare story. And in many cases, this caused the staff to have a reaction beyond "get out of my office" or "this person's not here." In some cases, the staffers even teared up, which was really what we were trying to go for all along, was really to humanize our folks and to make it harder for staffers in these offices to just go about their business, and make it harder for their bosses to just operate with a clean machine that never stopped. So, we've done a lot of protests. We're going to continue to do protests. We had rolling protests on Monday and Tuesday, and a lot of our folks were kicked out of the Senate gallery and out of the also out of the out of the rotunda. there have been a lot of protests. I'm actually leaving later tonight to go down to DC and won't be back until Friday evening because we're going to have another round of protests. And we are linking up because our strong coalition of Housing Works and communities, Center for Popular Democracy, and National Nurses United, and a couple of other folks are very much 100% supportive of the accountability actions on Saturday. We're really excited that this stuff is going to continue to go. We know that the prospects look bleak, but we're going to continue to fight with all of our heart and all of our soul. And I think that's
Thank you, Jaron. If folks want to get connected to any of the local events that you're planning or the protests over the weekend, how do they go about doing that?
So for the weekend event, that's the same one that was plugged earlier by Families USA.
Okay, so
and if you are in the DC area and want to join some demonstrations at the Capitol, don't worry, we are not getting arrested anymore this week. So not risking arrest, but if you want to join a demonstration and make your voice heard, you can reach out to me. Just send me an email at j.benjamin, like Benjamin Franklin, at housingworks.org.
Thank you, Jaron. I don't know if there are any questions, Jessica, for Jaron?
Not at this time.
Okay. And I know that we've got a hard stop at 3. So what I'm going to do is real quickly introduce, so Jaron, stay on the line because we're going to have a Q&A, 5 to 10 minutes here, but we've got a hard stop at 3. So I'm going to introduce first Jessica and then Naina Khanna to very quickly talk a little bit about what people who are living with or are affected by HIV can do right now. Jessica.
Great, thanks, Bill. So a lot of the points have already been hit on. I think, one of the things I'd like to just sort of, really press upon is to keep calling. We've been calling and flooding these offices with our stories, with our perspectives, and urging senators to oppose repeal, and we really have to keep the pressure up. So please do keep doing that. One way to generate more calls is to organize a phone bank to do that, to reach out to your clients and your community partners and your friends and your neighbors and volunteers and other folks living with HIV to get them involved. We've seen amazing work around this area happening both in North Carolina and Illinois. North Carolina AIDS Advocacy Network actually just held another one last night, which was really successful. So, there's opportunities to continue to engage in this and to really mobilize others to do the same. And there's a variety of tools and resources that are available to support you in this. You can find those. There's a great sort of site. There's a great place all this stuff is living on PWN's website for the PWN-USA Kill the Bill, where there's a number of resources, including talking points and sample scripts and how to organize phone banks and do media as well. The other piece I want to highlight is these different events that are taking place in the streets and at congressional offices is to really make sure that there's an HIV message that's delivered there to ensure that we are the perspectives and the needs of the HIV community are well represented. And Naina, is there anything else you want to sort of chime in with as well?
Sure, I'll just be really quick. I want to add a couple of things. One is there are some additional excellent resources. As Jessica said, and I think has been sort of underscored throughout this call, there's never been a moment, sort of more important than this one to make sure our senators are hearing from us and that we are in the media. And so making sure you know where stuff is going on. There are a few great resources. One is the Indivisible Guide, www.indivisibleguide.com, which has a bunch of different resources around sort of like a play-by-play of how things are expected to go down over the next 48 hours. And then ourlivesontheline.org is a great resource as well, where they have a National Day of Action happening this Saturday. There are going to be events happening everywhere as of this morning. They had 126 events planned
in 36 states, and you can join one or organize your own. The hashtag is OurLives, and the website is ourlivesontheline.org. And then, as Jessica said, of course, the Kill the Bill Resource Center, which is on pwn-usa.org. And sort of the main things I would say that maybe haven't been mentioned is that this is just a really good time for dramatic, media-friendly events at and outside Republican senators' offices. So wherever you are, you know, and especially if you're in one of the target states that have been mentioned, so Alaska, Arizona, Colorado, Maine, Nevada, Louisiana, or if you know anybody there, Ohio, mobilize them now. Folks should be making phone calls to their senators. They should be trying to get local press as much as possible that, you know, calls out these senators, holds them accountable on this message, thanks those who voted against the motion to proceed, and really highlights our stories as an HIV community. And we have a lot of these more specific points on our Kill the Bill resource page. And the messaging at this point in time is not really complicated. Don't feel like you have to know every statistic or every number of what's in these different pieces of legislation, because you don't. The truth is, these legislators passed a motion to proceed yesterday on a bill that they didn't actually even know what it was. There's not even, you know, real language that they were voting on at that time. The bottom line is we don't want any votes on any bill that would repeal the Affordable Care Act. No version of this bill is okay. And so we need our senators to be opposing all versions of the bill as they are proposed. So, you know, again, I would just direct you to these resources for more information and sort of real-time information. And just in closing, I want to say that we're also aware that attacks are coming sort of from all sides right now. You know, we woke up to some really horrifying news about attacks on the trans community from the White House today. And I just want to acknowledge that folks are doing a lot. We appreciate you. You inspire us. We ask you to hang in there. You are making a difference. And the fact that we've been able to keep this fight up for so long and make it so hard for them to pass this legislation that they've been trying to do for 7 years is a testament to how strong our community is. And we can do this. We just have to keep it up. So thank you.
I think that's exactly right, Nana. I think the other piece that I would definitely want to add is about taking to social media and really tweeting at the targeted senators and telling them to vote no on any repeal, and encouraging others that you are connected to do the same. There's a variety of ways to communicate with these folks, and we can't let up. And we really would not have gotten this far without the tenacity of our community. And we can win this. We just have to keep on pushing. I also want to say that, you know, there's going to be email that follows up. Bill, hope this is okay. I'm saying that AIDS United is going to be sending out a message, an alert that's going to be coming out that will include some talking points and contact information for targeted senators. So if you don't have the most up-to-date list of who the targets are, that's okay. We'll be making that available. It'll also include, you know, we have Twitter handles, we have district offices, we have DC offices, and we really just encourage you to keep calling, and keep the pressure up the best that you can, so that we fight this back.
Thank you, Jessica. Yes, I guess we are going to do a follow-up, and actually we do have kind of a list of senators that's actually been expanding. So keep an eye out for that. And actually, you know, you jogged my memory about the phone banks. Any group that has the capacity to do phone banking, pick one of these senators and go to town on them. I could tell you that, like I know that AFC in North Carolina have been doing this. LA LGBT Center they actually sent me some statistics. They engaged 900 volunteers with more than 7,000 conversations and 700 voicemails for Senators Heller, Flake, and Gardner. So you know, it's happening out there all around us. Jessica, were there any final questions that we want to try to answer?
One was
sent our way.
For the URL for the PWN Kill the Bill Resource Center. Now they can just access that from the homepage, correct?
Yeah, they can. There's a drop-down menu that says Kill the Bill Resource Center on top. PWN.
And I'll go on ahead and make sure that we send that out with the email that we send.
Great. The other thing I wanted to add is that there are a number of organizations that are also looking for volunteers to call into to phone bank other constituents in other states and targeted states. So I know Planned Parenthood Federation just sent something out. Indivisible is also doing the same thing. So, you know, perhaps we can also include that in a follow-up message that comes out to let people know what some of those other resources are to be able to contact to participate and volunteer for those efforts.
All right. Well, we have literally 2 minutes, I think, to get to final. I'd like to just say very special thanks to Cietta and Matt, to Shannon, Jaron, Jessica, and Naina as well. And then there's just an incredible number of people who have been extremely helpful in pulling this all together, and many of them have been working on the hotline, the HIV hotline that we've been showing. I'm not going to be able to mention everybody, but I do feel like it's important to let folks know just how much Andrea Weddle has been really key in helping us to continue to be organized. But we're just grateful to all of the hotline partners and people who are continuing to keep the pressure up. And then finally, thanks to literally everybody who has called in and who cares about defeating this bill. Keep it up. We absolutely can do this. Naina, if you've got any final thoughts, I'm going to leave the final closing to you.
Okay, thanks, Bill. I just want to, again, thank and appreciate everybody who's been putting in blood, sweat, tears, love, and passion to fight this battle. As a woman living with HIV myself and who works in community with many hundreds and thousands of folks, of people living with HIV across the country, I want to tell you that we notice your work. It means the world to us, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We're committed to be in this, to the very end. All of us willing to put our bodies on the line. We know a lot of you have done that as well, and just thank you so much for your work. We're in this to win this, and let's stay connected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's it for us today. If anyone's got questions, feel free to reach back out to any or all of us.